Welcome to Session 3 of Digital Basics, Bits Meet Gates. As always, we begin by reviewing the answers from last session's exercises. For the first exercise, we're asked to analyze the gate operations for all the possible combinations of inputs. And we'll start with the first combination, where both inputs are inactive. Right off the bat, the inactive A input is inverted and passes through the OR gate to make J active. The same inversion disables the inside AND gate, which in turn enables the bubble input to the K AND gate, promising so far. However, the inactive B input blocks the K AND gate, rendering K inactive. Finally, the inactive inner gate disables the M output as well. Moving on to the next combination, we find that the J output is active for the same reason as the first combination. Now the middle AND gate is active, enabling the K output to be active as well. The active B input, though, disables the M output AND gate. The next combination, an inactive B input works its way to the J output. And although this is an active input for the K output AND gate, the other AND input is disabled, blocking the K output. Finally, the inactive middle gate disables the M output. The last combination, where both inputs of the J output OR gate are blocked. It only takes one inactive input of the K output AND gate to block it. And finally, an inactive B input means an inactive M output. I indicated in the previous session that there was something special about the M output. Note that when the B input is inactive, M is also inactive. But when B is an inactive, M is still inactive. In other words, no matter what the state of the B input, M is never active. We might as well have just tied the M output as permanently inactive. On to the second exercise. We're not asked to find just one state that renders C active, so we'll go through all the combinations. We start with both inputs inactive, and although the first input to the C output AND gate is active, the other is not, so C is inactive. However, once the B input is active, then C is also made active. Reversing the input states is bad news, as now nothing is active. But both inputs active is no better, due to the inversion on input A. Moving on to the second gate combination, where we begin with both inputs inactive, and because of the inversion, the first input to the C output AND gate is active, and the OR gate is inactive. But that's actually good, since the output AND gate has a bubble on that input. Next, the B input is inverted to be active at the output AND gate, and the same with the last input. So this input combination yields an active output. Next combination, where an active B input is inverted on the way to the output AND gate. We don't need to go any further. So onward, where now an active A input is inverted, and again, we need go no further. Last combination, both inputs active, and again, an active B input deactivates the output. Here's a summary of this exercise. We've seen how gates can be used to represent logical operations, and we used the terms active and inactive to designate logical states. In the real-world applications, these might be, for example, voltage levels, which we might refer to as simply high and low voltage levels. In fact, this has become nearly ubiquitous. You'll often hear engineers talking about high and low inputs and outputs. Indeed, we use a variety of terms for active and inactive states, like, besides high, you might find asserted or enabled for active, and for inactive states, besides low, you might find deasserted or disabled. But importantly, logic states can be represented simply by the numbers 1 and 0. And this brings us back around to binary numbers. We have reached an extremely important point. While there are plenty of cases where logic is used to monitor and control real-world activity directly, turning on lights and setting off sirens, by far the vast majority of gates out there, embedded in their billions inside integrated circuits, are performing manipulations of numbers, whether actual abstract mathematical calculations or massaging the pixels on your screen, or even executing software instructions. They're all numbers of one sort or another. Logic is to numbers as your heart and arteries are to your blood. And so, we move into the realm of ones and zeros. Let's take a very simple example of a number. Here we have 15 houses in a small neighborhood, and we're labeling each one with its own number. Say we want to look at house number 9. We can represent this as a decimal 9, a hex 9, they're the same in this case, or a binary 9. We note that with 4 binary bits, i.e. 1 hex digit, we can represent numbers from 0 to 15. Our houses go from 1 to 15. I guess we could label an empty lot as 0, but we'll stick to starting with 1. In the earlier session, we saw how each bit position has a multiplying factor. Now, we're going to apply a different sort of label to each bit position. Here, there are 4 bit positions, and we'll number them starting with 0. We use a shorthand method to show the bit numbers. The number to the left of the colon is the MS, the most significant bit, and the number to the right of the colon is the LS, least significant. This is almost always 0. It's just a name, and it could be anything. Bits, donkey, or conveniently, houses. The important thing is that the name refers to the whole set of binary bits. Think of the name as a number. In coding, you might think of it as a variable. By the way, we call this sort of representation of groups of bits a vector. Imagine that we're told to walk along another 3 houses, and we'd like our logic to determine the number of that house. We begin with the current house number 9. We'll create a new binary value that we'll call more. And we place that, a 3, under houses in order to add to it. Just like we do when we add familiar decimal numbers, we start with the rightmost bit, the LSB. Since they're both binary 1, we know that added together they are binary 2. Let's step aside and review how we add decimal numbers. In this example, 17 plus 15. Here the LS digits are 7 and 5, and added together they're 12. As we know, we take the LS digit, here 2, to be the summed LS digit, and we carry the MS digit, here 1, for a final answer of 32. In the same way, we use the LS bit directly, and we carry the MS bit, here 1. Then, adding the carry 1 with the second bit of the more value, we again get a binary 2, and again we use the LS bit, 0, and carry the 1 to the third bit position. There's no carry at the third position, so we end with an answer of hex C, which we know is decimal 12, the answer we hoped for. In the next session, we'll see how logic gates can perform addition for us. But first, like we do to end each session, a few exercises.